This episode of The Tome Show is brought to you by our patrons. You can support the show like them at patreon.com/The Tome Show. Welcome to a Tome Book Club. The Tome is a D&D news, reviews, and interview show, and I'm your Tome host, Tracy Hurley.
And I'm Jeff Greiner. In each book club episode, we usually discuss one D&D related book, spoilers be damned, in a full book club style. This time around, we read Dungeons & Dragons The Fallbacks, Dealing with Dragons by Jaleigh Johnson.
And with us, as always, is Eric Paquette.
Bonjour, hello, how are you doing? I sort of feel like I need to add a roar in this.
We were just talking about the D&D coloring book. Maybe one of these times we'll make that our book club book. Instead of reading a book, we'll just play around with a coloring book for a while and talk about that.
That sounds good.
They've got a new crocheting book coming out next year too that we can maybe have. I've never crocheted before, so that could be horrible. I don't know.
Brenda loves crochet, so maybe.
There you go.
Nice. And before we get into this book, next episode, which we'll record in January, we'll be reading Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. So that sounds like also like something that in theory you could crochet or something while listening to, if you're listening to the audiobook.
Sounds cozy, yeah. Yep. All right, before we get started, I want to say thank you to our patrons. They help me pay the bills. You can help out too by going to patreon.com/The Tome Show and offering as little as $1 a month. Now, let's talk about Dealing with Dragons. Dealing with Dragons is the second book following The Fallbacks, a D&D adventuring party introduced to us by Jaleigh Johnson in the first book, which I think wasn't it just called The Fallbacks? Or did it have another title? I don't remember now.
I believe it had another title. I'm just trying to remember.
Was that Relics of Ruin?
No, that's Arrows and Ruins was Aaron Evans' book.
Bound for Ruin.
Bound for Ruin, yes.
And that book dealt with the machinations of a lich who was bound to a book that was the party's magic user got her hands on, and the things that the Fallbacks had to do to thwart this lich and unbind themselves from the ruinous child, which was the name of the book. This book sort of picks up it doesn't feel like it's too horribly far after that.
Right.
It takes place in it's centered at least at the beginning around Baldur's Gate, which seems to be a popular sort of base of operations in books these days, right? I think the party in the Ravenloft book that we read for the last episode, also they were based. I mean, obviously it took place in Ravenloft, but they were based out of Baldur's Gate. I think the combination of the timing for the Descent into Avernus adventure plus the of course the video game Baldur's Gate 3 coming out has made Baldur's Gate sort of the default starting point of a lot of D&D stories these days. But it started off actually it starts sort of a little bit in media res, right? They're already in the middle of an adventure. Interestingly, they're in a famous dungeon, the Sunless Citadel.
Yep.
Which I don't think was originally a Forgotten Realms dungeon.
No, it was 3rd edition, and at that point in time, Greyhawk was the
default. But it was more or less written setting agnostic, I believe. The Sunless Citadel was. But I mean, if the novels are canon, the Sunless Citadel is now canonically in the Forgotten Realms and not too horribly far away from Baldur's Gate. Um,
And I was excited because I was like, wait, I've heard of that.
right? And I knew what to expect when they because when we get to them, they've already been through most of the Sunless Citadel. They are in the grove with the Golthias tree, which is sort of the famous thing of the Sunless Citadel, is the Golthias tree. And they're there, and they're like, oh yeah, there's that Golthias tree we read all about, and we researched before we came, because imagine that characters doing research before they go on an adventure and learning about what they're going to encounter. But we're not really here for the Golthias tree and the fruit of the Golthias tree. We're here because we've been hired by the Harpers, basically, to rescue one of their agents who disappeared down here in the Sunless Citadel. And they got that job because their leader, Tess? I think Tess is the leader, right?
Yeah, Tess is the...
And she's also a Harper. She's the party rogue. Let's see if I got the... I'm pretty sure I got all their classes. I'm not positive I have their species correct, because I would guess Tess is a human.
She is not.
What is she?
She's an elf.
Yep.
Oh, yes, Tess is referred to as an elf. Tess is the elf rogue. We have the tiefling bard, who was recruited in the first book. He wasn't originally part of the party, but they recruited him into the party, and he has a name that starts with an L.
Lark,
thank you. We have the wizard, who by default I'm going to guess is a human, but I don't remember it even coming up in this book.
I don't remember her species, but yes, you're talking about Casbin?
Yes, Casbin, that's the name. You've got the fighter, who, again, I'm going to assume is a human. We deal with him and his brother. And his name starts with an A. Anson, thank you. We've got Augie the Odiug, who's the pet. Oh, and we have Baldric, the cleric, who I think is a dwarf.
From what I recall, he's a dwarf, yes.
Yeah. The reason I go through all of this is because it's a second book in a series, and so there is less effort put into introducing us to the characters, who they are, what they look like, all that kind of stuff. There are references to who they are, but there's less effort to introduce us to who they are. And so I wanted to see if I could actually go through them all and remember who are these characters I just read a whole book about. So
yeah, they probably compared to I can't tell for sure compared to the first book, but I agree with you. I felt kind of dumped back in, and I was like, wait, it's been a minute.
Yeah. I listened to the first 7 chapters. I started listening was it Monday that we recorded? No, Tuesday, when we recorded last week.
Right.
And from Tuesday to Friday, I listened to 7 chapters. And honestly, I was really having a hard time getting into it. Then I realized on Saturday, oh no, I don't have a lot of time. I need to get this book read. And so Saturday, I plowed through like 15 chapters in one day. And they're relatively short chapters. I think like they range from 8 minutes to 18 minutes in terms of chapter audiobook listening. And so they're relatively quick and easy to consume. And each one is from a different perspective. I continue to enjoy the fact that every now and then the Odiug Augie gets a chapter with the Odiug's perspective. I think he had 2 in this, and I think I vaguely recall us talking about that happening in the first book as well, and enjoying that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so they're an easy read, but yeah, those first 7 chapters, I was having a hard time really just getting back into it, because we were just sort of put right into it and not ease back into it, and I was having a hard time remembering who all the people were and what have you. And there's, there are references, there are things that are said, whatever. but it's been a while.
Yeah, the main thing that like I recognized also from the first book is that they had fallen back into some old habits, bad habits of not talking to each other and stuff like that. And so that was like continued in this book a little bit after, and it was even referenced that it felt like they were backsliding in terms of being open and talking and trustful of each other.
I mean, it was honestly a major theme of the story. The first 2/3 of the book was really about them not talking to each other and keeping secrets and not taking care of each other and whatever, you know?
Yeah, and if we want to talk about that topic a little bit more, I actually really enjoyed that being something that the book explored. Not only that this happens, because we've read some previous books where I'm just like, oh no, if only they had talked to each other, this whole thing could have been avoided.
I mean, honestly, that's like 90% of fiction is, you know, if people just talk to each other, this would be a lot less of dramatic, you know?
Right, but oftentimes, like, I liked the book seemed to talk pretty well about or show or illustrate how you actually talk to each other over time. Rather, like, it was more about how to fix those things, and it was an important part of Tess's growth in the book, right? Was she's a leader, she had to talk to her mentor Mel and figure out how to get the group talking to each other, or like how to set that up for success.
Mel, who it turns out is definitely a halfling and totally not a dragon.
Right? Yeah, not a dragon.
Not a dragon.
For sure. Yes.
Yes.
So I really appreciated that part of the book.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, that is so much of fiction, whether it be TV or books or whatever, is if, you know, people would just talk to each other, they would solve a lot more problems, right? Yeah. So that part was pretty well trod ground, but the going through the process of learning how to do that regularly again. What'll be important to me is, assuming we get a third book, I don't want them to then backslide again. Like, let's not keep retelling the same story over and over again, because it's also fun to just watch really competent people working together and doing amazing things sometimes, you know?
Yep.
Like, that's a fun trope as well. So you can do that with the same party multiple times.
Like, I'm curious because they have a comic that's coming out soon or is already out for the Fallbacks.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm wondering if they're going to fall back, or if it's going to be a retelling of what's already been written, or it's new stories. I don't know yet. So, but I put it on my list to try to get.
Yeah.
But one thing I did like, the fact of going when they presented Son of Citadel, is because it comes with my favorite dragon, which is Shardalin. Big, huge.
Yeah, well, because that's one of the things as a D&D player, one of the things I found done very well in this book is demonstrating, although it's in fiction, it's demonstrating the idea of sharing the spotlight. Like, every character kind of had their own main story, with the possible exception of the wizard with the K, who's, this is how I'm going to refer to everybody. But, she didn't really have her own major main story, although her story played into what happens in sort of the last third. But in fairness, I feel like a lot of the first book spotlighted her. So I don't mind that she took a little bit more of a backseat in this one. But Baldric had a major story. Baldric is our cleric, who is interesting and fun and an inspiration for some interesting character concepts that then popped into my head, because he's not a cleric of a specific deity. He's a cleric with like a cloth holy symbol that he with like pages that he flips through to find the holy symbol of a specific god when he needs a specific type of spell. And then he bargains and makes a deal with that god. So it's like, hey, Talos, I really need a lightning bolt right now. Can I, obviously not lightning bolt because that's not a cleric spell, but call lightning. I really need to call lightning right now. If you give me that, I'll do this thing for you or whatever. And that's every round is him sort of pleading with a different god to get a certain spell. And I think that's a fun and cool concept. This book takes that to the nth degree, because that becomes a major story point, in that he has he makes bargains with all these different gods. And originally it sounded like he was mostly devoted to Tyr. He used to call on Tyr a lot, and Tyr sort of abandoned him at a crucial time at some point. And that's when he went to this whole bargaining with all the gods sort of thing. And he doesn't trust Tyr as much. But a new voice started speaking to him. I assume that was in the first book. I don't remember.
Don't remember spoken in the first book, but
right. But a new voice has started speaking to him, and that's been sort of the party focus for a while. It's figuring out who this new voice is and what's going on with Baldric and what have you. And over time, they eventually figure out that new voice is in fact a Chardalon. And that was convenient for them being down in the Sunless Citadel, because that was previously a lair of a Chardalon and the home of the Cult of the Dragon, which was possibly becoming more active there. That's what the Harper was doing that disappeared, was looking into Cult of the Dragon activity and all of that. And we figure out that he's sort of getting... a Chardalon wants him to be a dragon warlock, I guess, is sort of the way I read that. And so that's Baldric's storyline. Anson,
just real quick,
yeah,
on the Sunless Citadel part, it's not necessarily about Baldric, but one thing I do hope is that the Odiag and the Frog can get back together again and finish their conversation.
Yeah.
So during the fight,
go ahead.
During the fight, I forget what the guy was that was controlling the frog, because it was at the very beginning of the book. But they're in this fight, and this frog, what kind of frog is it? Is it a slod?
My first instinct was that it was like a bullywog or something, but then it's...
Oh, maybe, yeah,
but,
yeah.
Well, but it's not like... I don't know. It may be more animalistic than that.
It started advancing on the Odiag, and Odiag started trying to talk to it and stuff, and like fell in love, and then they were kind of talking to each other, and then they all got pulled away. Our team got pulled away.
Right. And then
that was it.
Right. And like that was it. Right. And that felt like it was building to something, like the frog character was going to be a character in the story in some other way, but it just sort of appeared in the grove and then whoosh, was gone and never really talked about or explained.
Hopefully this is something for a third book.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because there's other threads that were left, like by the end, Baldric reconciles with Tyr and makes a deal, and in that deal he was sort of desperate, and he just sort of said, I'll give you whatever you want as part of his end of the bargain. And Tyr came back saying, okay, I helped you, it worked. And Baldric's like, okay, so what do I owe you? And he's like, I'll just hang on to that, I'll let you know later what I want. So clearly there's like an extra thread there. And clearly, Jaleigh Johnson has set it up with the idea that there will be another book, or at least there will be more opportunities to tell a story, whether that is done through the comics or another book. I don't know, because we haven't looked at the comics yet. Maybe the frog character and the whole thing is maybe the rest of the tale is told in the comics, but I kind of hope not, because so far novels have been the primary storytelling mechanism for this story. But yeah, so that's more or less Baldric's story. One of the other characters who has a major story is Anson. And his big story is, after the last book, he wanted help finding his brother and dealing with the fact that his brother was a Zint who was helping the Lich in the first book, and he's very concerned about that. And he's also very upset with the party, and at one point talking about leaving the party because like he said this was important and that he needed it to be, that we needed to work on this. And the party and Tess in particular had just sort of deprioritized it. It's like, yes, I promise you, I will absolutely deal with that, but not right now. We got to do all these other things first. And so Anson at some point is like, you know what? Like, I got to deal with this. It's my brother. I got to find him. And the longer we wait, you know, who knows what could happen. And it turns out that his brother found out that he was looking for him and found him. And they had a pretty reasonable conversation of like, look, if I joined you, like the Anson wanted him to join the party to be so that they could protect him from the Zints and whatever, and whoever might be seeking retaliation. He's like, yeah, but we know that's not going to work because if we do, you're going to try to make me like you, and I'm not like you. Which was honestly, that was the first time we saw the, hey, people aren't talking to each other, and now they are, and there was a reasonable conversation that came out of that. And this is sort of maybe a little foreshadowing of the reasonable conversations the party would have with each other later. Because there was you're going to want me to be like you. I'm not like you. So that's not a reasonable thing to ask of me. And I know that's what's going to happen if I go with you. And Anson's response was, I hadn't really thought about it, but you're right. I would be slowly pressuring and wanting you to become like me until it eventually blew up and we'd all hate each other again or whatever. But let's look out for each other. But part of that storyline basically comes to a conclusion when the brother kind of manipulates him into stealing an amulet, which my D&D mind interpreted as an amulet of proof against detection or non-detection or whatever it's called, that protects you from scrying and all that kind of stuff. And it stole that from Lark to give to him. And so that created party tension. And that's sort of more or less the end of that story thread, although clearly there's more story there to tell too. And that leads us into Lark's story, where we also get a little hint about what's going on with him, and that before he ever joined the Fallbacks in the first book, he was being hunted by people, and that's why he wanted the amulet so he could also hide from the people hunting him, and that everybody was mad at him. Like, what do you mean people are hunting you? That seems like it'd be pretty important for us to know since you're part of the party and what have you. And he's like, yeah, but like, they've been hunting me longer than I've known you, and I needed to sort out whether or not I could trust you before I could tell you anything. Of course, that ship has sailed. He probably should have said something a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I know we talked about earlier about not wanting to retread. Hopefully, in the future, it doesn't retread that same ground of them not talking to each other. But it felt very human, even though that's weird to say for fantasy races. But like they had gotten to a certain level of trust in the first book, and now they're getting to that next level where they had to overcome, a lot of trauma that they've had in their past. Like all of them, I think, pretty much talk about the fear of essentially rejection for knowing the full truth. Mm-hmm. So they had gotten to that part where they could unlock having rooms in the same house together, and now they're getting to, hey, no, you really know me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and that's a thread that also then did not get concluded. This story was really about dealing with Baldric's story, because he's the one with this connection to a Chardalon, and the story is dealing with dragons and whatever, but it intersected with all these others. But Lark's story could also come back and be a thing.
Right. Yeah, we don't know the rest of it. One thing that I thought was good, that was cool about it, showing how they've grown to closer, almost like found family, was at the very end when, during one of the fights, Lark's lute, I think it is, gets horribly smashed
in the final of the big boss fight at the end. Yeah,
and Anson takes it because sure that it was like Lark sure that cannot be fixed, but does not want a new instrument yet, even though he's a bard, because he's not ready to let it go. And Anson takes it and finds a place that not only can put it back together, but add some magic to it. So he now has a magical instrument, which helps potentially also overcome the fact that Anson stole the magical thing that he had just gotten as loot from.
I assumed that's why he went through that much effort, because Anson had previously like sworn that he was going to make it right, that he stole the amulet, and I think this was his way of making it right.
Right, and the thing is like originally he had talked about like, well, I'll look for a similar charm that will protect you from being discovered, right? And instead he thought like he did something that meant tremendously to Lark.
Right, that was personal.
That beloved instrument. Yeah.
Right. No, and that brings up. Boy, howdy, does Jaleigh Johnson in this book do a phenomenal job of integrating her story very firmly into the Forgotten Realms, right? And yet I feel like it's still approachable.
Right.
You'd have to tell me, but as a Forgotten Realms fan and a recent like 5th edition Forgotten Realms fan, he got that loot fixed and enchanted at Sorcerer's Sundries, a major location in Baldur's Gate 3. When they end up in Luskan at one point, and they talk about the different ships that rule Luskan, which is something that has been explored fairly heavily in R.A. Salvatore's books. And then they went to the Host Tower of the Arcane and dealt with Vilain Harpel, who is a major character and one of the villains of Rime of the Frost Maiden, the 5th edition adventure. Like, she is going above and beyond to situate her book in a shared world that honestly, I don't know is actually even a shared world anymore. Like, I don't know that there's a lot of effort to be being made between those few authors who are writing in the Forgotten Realms to do so in a shared world. But boy, Jaleigh Johnson is still writing like she's writing in a shared world, and I kind of love it.
And I didn't know all of that.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel a loss of like the book still made perfect sense and everything. So I think that's awesome.
And for me, I like what you just told, Jeff. Like, I read it in the book, but I didn't know it was actual stuff that was in Forgotten Realms.
Yeah,
thus,
she's
approachable as someone who's not, and you as a fan, you got those references.
She's clearly a D&D fan, though, and she's referencing the things that she's seeing in recent years of D&D. You've seen authors of the past. There used to be a lot of authors, right? And you've seen authors of the past sort of like, well, I'm just going to tell my story in my little corner and not worry about what's going on. Or they'd have to be given a primer of like, here's some stuff going on that we want you to try to reference or fit in or whatever. Don't get the impression Jaleigh Johnson was told, hey, try to fit these things in. She's just a fan of D&D and knew these things and fit them in. So.
Yeah, and she talks about that closeness to D&D at the end in her acknowledgement section too, and how much her husband, I forget if it's her brother or something, like help keep the D&D world alive in their house, in their family or whatever. But yeah, and I also love that it's a found family story set within the Forgotten Realms, right? Like, so, and there's lots of different types of folks within that family. So I think a lot of potentially there's a lot of readers that could find themselves in the book and then still have that connection to D&D and the realms alongside with it.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what more. It feels like Wizards has been dipping their toe in the water of doing more with the fallbacks as well. If you go to the glossary of D&D terms or whatever that is in the back of the new player's handbook, the 2024 player's handbook, the fallbacks are listed. You don't see many adventuring parties listed in that section. But the fallbacks are there. Well, that's interesting because they're one of a million different adventuring parties. Why are they listed? And none of the others, even the famous ones, aren't listed. Okay. So it seems like they're maybe going to play around with that a little bit, or at least wanted to leave that door open.
And I do believe when I was listening to you guys talk about the DMG, when you were going through it, you got to a section, the fallbacks were mentioned, and it was mentioned. You guys were reading at the same time we were reading.
Oh yeah, maybe it was the DMG. That's where the glossary is, not the player's handbook. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yep.
So, do we feel like there were enough dragons in this book? And did they deal with them?
Well,
they dealt with that. Yes.
here's the interesting thing about the fallbacks as a party. I don't get the impression they're that high of level.
No.
But book 1, they take on an ultra powerful lich.
Right.
And like they go into these things that if I was the DM running these adventures or whatever, like this is not a challenge that I would be putting them up against. Right. And they deal with it in a way that is interesting, but if it was a D&D game would be a little bit anticlimactic. Like, oh, you went into the big fight with the lich and then you defeated the lich by calling or cajoling some purple worms to come in and eat them. Okay, well that doesn't give me the big like into the campaign big fight that I like to have, right? You're dealing with a Chardalon throughout this whole book as sort of this big threat, and a Chardalon is a great worm in the 5th edition concept of great worm, where there is only one in all of the planes, and he's risen himself to almost godhood. They reference multiple times that he's almost reached godhood, and he no longer even lives in the world. He lives in the astral sea or whatever. And they're like, okay, I guess we're going to have to deal with this dragon god. Let's go. Like, what? How do you think that's something that you should be fighting at, I don't know, 6th level, maybe 8th? That's sort of my gauge as to sort of where I feel like they are. But they're like, okay, so now we got to go fight a dragon god now. That seems way out of your depth. And they don't fight the dragon god. They trick the dragon god into leaving Baldric alone through divine intervention. Yeah. But they do get at least the big fight at the end, because the dragon cultist follower of a Chardalon who's been sort of following them along and upset because Baldric is getting all this attention from a Chardalon, and darn it, she's supposed to be the special one. Turns out that she is a black dragon, and so there's a big fight with this black dragon in the middle of the host tower of the Arcane in Luskan. So you do still get your big climactic battle while Baldric deals with a Chardalon through divine intervention and a little Deus Ex Machina.
While Karzan was dealing with her test.
Right.
Okay.
And that's the second dragon, and then the first one is this amazing battle, in the middle of the ocean or sea, while they're on a boat, and one of them's flying around, dealing with a red dragon.
They were dealing with a wyvern, weren't they?
Or wyvern, sorry, yeah.
Which is tricksy. Like, I guess wyverns, I just double checked on D&D Beyond. Wyverns are dragon type, but I don't usually think of them as actually being true dragons in the draconic, in the normal dragon sort. But certainly the implication was that like the dragon cultists and whatever were responsible for the wyvern showing up, and a Chardalon talks to Baldric during that fight, being like, "Hey, I can protect you. This is one of mine. I can make you powerful enough to fear no dragons," or blah, 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 whatever.
Right. And the big thing is that it was a red one, right? I thought. I
mean, that's very possible. Wyverns are described as various colors, I think, over time.
Yeah, and it is, you're right, in 2024, I think it is, they call it a large dragon.
Mm-hmm. That is their type.
But yeah, as their type.
but I don't know that like the artwork depicts them as green in 2024. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything because different artwork over the years has shown them in different ways. So I didn't take the color in this instance to necessarily change the type.
No. But I think it was intended to mimic almost like a Charlatan.
Oh,
because he's a red dragon.
Because he's a red dragon.
Or a red.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Red dragon with the Baylor as a heart.
Yeah. Has that always been part of a Charlatan's lore?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, when his heart started dying, he ripped his heart off and put a Baylor in there.
Yeah.
And then when that started failing, he went to a plane, which is where all new souls come, and start feeding on the new souls. And that's where he lives. So,
the Charlatan's not originally a Forgotten Realms character, is he?
He was created for that series that started with the Son of the Citadel in 3rd edition, so he was initially for Greyhawk, probably.
Okay.
Also generic for any sort of...
Well, and this is a Charlatan could be from Greyhawk and still function here because he's a planar
one,
character. In the same way that I don't have a problem with Vecna showing up as a threat in the Forgotten Realms because Vecna crosses the planes.
Yeah, and Tasha, because Tasha was initially also Greyhawk.
Right. And Greyhawk in particular has generated a good number of characters and threats that have transcended setting.
Yeah.
But in theory, we still could see more a Charlatan in the future of this series because just because the Baldric and Tyr tricked a Charlatan and severed the connection between a Charlatan and Baldric does not mean that a Charlatan is just going to let it go.
No.
So I could see that being a thing, or not, but I could see that being a thing.
Do we want to talk about the trick?
Sure.
So part of it is that Baldric gets knocked out during the fight, right? And a Charlatan kind of acts like he has taken over, and there's only one option available to Baldric, which is to submit, take the knee. And what Baldric ends up telling him is, well, I called in one last favor before I got knocked out. And I thought through all of the gods that could help me here and would most want to go against you. And I've called in Tiamat.
Right. And a Charlatan and Tiamat don't get along because a Charlatan would like to be a god and Tiamat is like, no, I'm the dragon god. Know your place.
Yes. And then I think it's Tyr kind of makes it look like it could be Tiamat arriving, and that makes a Charlatan vamoose and break the tether.
Mm-hmm. And then it turns out that Tiamat was not Tiamat. It was a bargain that Baldric had made with Tyr, who was pretending to be a Tiamat to scare off a Charlatan.
Yeah. For
an unnamed favor in the future. Which my guess is going to involve Baldric abandoning his god-flipping ways and dedicate himself back to Tyr and being a cleric of Tyr. That's my guess. After they've repaired that relationship by talking to each other.
Right. Well, and Tyr's like, look, I'm not going to make you choose right now. Like you've made your choice already, right? You're going to keep doing what you do, but
Tyr's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Or it could be, since they are now talking well and the party has learned a lot to talk about, Tyr wants Baldric and the group to come to make a group of gods talk to each other.
Yeah. We'll go to therapy together.
Right? There's lots of different ways this can lead. And Uggy needs food.
Yeah. Oh, and that was one thing I was going to say that I earlier when we were talking about Uggy is that I love that there's words, because you can talk to people through their minds. So there's words to that, but there's also pictures are a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And so like beard, the Baldric's beard means Baldric, and that's just it.
Oh. Yeah, because it's interesting that Baldric, or not, Augie is able to communicate telepathically, but is still very simple-minded.
Yes.
He's not portraying complex thoughts. He's, it's
Right.
it's basically all, I want cuddles or I want food.
Right.
Although that second chapter of Ugly trying to get food was trying to get food for the party.
Right. No. Yeah. He's definitely aware of and concerned with the party, but he was trying to get food for them. But that doesn't change the fact that he ate half of the ship's stores.
Yeah. I mean,
And then you realize he still needed food for them.
Right.
And then we talked a lot about it being like very in the realms with a lot of lore and stuff, and you can even the Tiamat points that. The other big thing, there was a continuous theme about cutting out voices in your head. So there was the Chardalon voice for Baldric, and then in that challenge with the wizard and Anson and Odiag, there's the Gibbering Mouther that also created the voices that were making it hard for them to do what they needed to do.
Which was a callback to her ancestor, who was a great and powerful wizard and evil and connected to the Arcane Brotherhood and what have you. And so that's part of why they were interested in her, was because, you have this ancestor who you're kind of following in their footsteps, and that's why we'll throw this challenge at you of the Gibbering Mouther. Actually, I really liked the description of the Gibbering Mouther and all the different mouths, and how some of them were, weird, deformed, far realmy mouths in places that they shouldn't be, and some of them were just like normal, pleasant mouths. And it was, that the Gibbering Mouther is made up of all of the beings that it has sort of absorbed over time. And the mouths are still fully formed from whichever being that they had absorbed. And like, that is a killer description of a Gibbering Mouther that I've never used in a game, and I totally should, because that's a lot more evocative of what's usually a relatively minor encounter.
Right. And then I also like that. Was it High Tower? Is that the name of the tower?
The Host Tower?
Host Tower, yeah. It had so much magic that it was almost sensory overload for multiple people in the party, but particularly the Wizard Tasman, when she was doing the spell of trying to figure out where the different layers of magic were and thus find a weak point to get out of that room. And just trying to overcome and calm oneself down, so that way the stimulation didn't become too much. I really like that type of description in there too.
Right. Well, and that's a fairly, like, it has been a part of D&D that people are like, I cast Detect Magic, and the DM's response is, oh my gosh, it's blinding. Like, you got a splitting headache. There's just so much. And so it's very much sort of in that vein in that case. What was unique with their description of the Host Tower was, before they even got into the tower, one of the characters is like, oh my gosh, just looking at it is giving me a headache. And she's like, yeah, that's all the magic. It's like layered with magic on top of magic on top of magic. You'll get used to it. It'll go away, I think, so. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Any other thoughts? We kind of went through the story, but like, rather than do it beginning to end like we oftentimes do, we kind of told each character's story and got through, I think, all of the story in the process, more or less. There'll still be surprises and details for people to pick up on if they want to read the book after hearing us to chat about it. So, any other thoughts or ideas or things you want to talk about?
no.
Okay. I kind of want to, we don't have any time in our schedule, but I kind of want to call up Jaleigh Johnson and see if she'd do an interview with us, because it'd be a lot of fun.
Right.
Maybe a January episode.
her dedication in memory of her dad was really touching too. Like, I know that's not part of the story, but
I missed
Yeah.
the acknowledgments and the dedication piece, apparently. I guess maybe I didn't listen to it all the way through to the end, like I usually do.
and I read it in an ebook, so
Ah,
I don't know if it's in the audio
so
part.
maybe it's not in the audio.
Yeah.
Normally I listen to audiobooks right up until the point that Audible always ends with, every single Audible book always ends with the same phrase. What is it? We hope you've enjoyed the story, or something like that. Audible hopes you've enjoyed the story. That's what it is. And I usually listen to it right all the way to that. I don't specifically remember listening to it that far, but I did when I got in my car the next day and plugged in my phone to my car. It started playing it over again from the beginning. So I don't know. It must have thought I got to the end. So, all right. Any other thoughts or ideas you want to share? All right. And I think we're going to call that the end of this episode. So it is time to say goodbye. I want to say thank you to our patrons at patreon.com/The Tome Show. Special thanks goes out to Merrick Blackman, Michael Harrison, Doug Palmer, Hyperlexic, and new patron Bill Roundy. I do so appreciate having people who are willing to chip in and help me pay the bills to keep the show going. And if you want to join them for as little as $1 a month, we would love to see you there at patreon.com/The Tome Show.
If you'd like to send us email, you can send email thetomeshow@gmail.com. You can find us on social media. I'm typically Sarah Dark Magic. That's Sarah with an H. Jeff is Squatch, SQUACH, and Eric is Eric MPAC. That's Eric with a C.
And Pack with
Show
a
notes,
Q.
another great. And Pack with a Q. URICMPAQ. Show notes and other great shows at thetomeshow.com.
And that's our chat about dealing with dragons. Don't forget that in January, we will be reading Legends and Lattes. Until then, keep turning the page, Tomites.
I'm on the wall.